On this episode of Goliath Fishing, it is actually part 2 of our Guatemala series. What can I say? This country's beautiful. It's filled with so much adventure, so much chaos, but it's got an inner beauty about itself. I'm truly falling in love with this country. Day 3 started with a beautiful breakfast provided by Pacific Finns Lodge, and then we hopped in the vans real quick and drove about 3 blocks down and went to the local fish market. Now, it is a bunch of pangas, which is a glass/wooden hull style boat, very small, very skinny, and this is what the natives of Guatemala are primarily using to catch fish.
We are at the Buena Vista Fish Market right now, checking out the local cuisine. I'm seeing a variety of species: snapper, catfish, even snook. There's a bunch of different commercial fishermen, and they all meet here by this bridge every Wednesday through Sunday and sell their local cuisine. Let's take a look.
From everything that I've seen in this fish market, fishing regulations are pretty much non-existent in this country. We saw such a variety of species.
It's got some of the local kids with me. They're all messing with us, but they were actually telling us how they are fishing. So at night, they're using these huge nets to go around the beaches and these giant rock jetties to catch all these species. And then they get here first thing in the morning and sell it to the community.
Yeah, they just lay it on a tarp on the street, you know, and they're trying to negotiate with you. They'll even scale it for you. Super nice guy will scale it for you. After visiting the local market, we decided to load up in the van and headed to Guatemala's old capital, Antigua. Yeah, they haven't updated anything. It is still a 17th century, 18th century type of community. All the roads are actually made out of old lava stone from the volcanoes that are everywhere in Guatemala. There's a total of 37 volcanoes, 7 are active. When we started heading to Antigua, the tour guide, he pulled over and he showed us this old town that looked destroyed, and we were like, what's this all about? He goes, this is where a volcano actually destroyed this village 3.5 years ago. And we were all like, what? This wasn't in the brochure. This wasn't. So we actually got out and explored this little sliver. I don't know how else to describe it. If you're near one of the volcanoes, about every 7 to 15 minutes you hear it erupt. How it was described to me is that in the middle of the night, the explosions happened very quick and a lava and rock avalanche started. In the middle of the night, it wiped out a whole town of 300 people. It really shows the vast power and destruction Mother Nature can cause in a split second.
We are actually in a village that 3.5 years ago completely burned down. This active volcano erupted, and what had happened, it was during the rainy season. So as this thing is spewing lava and rock, it's actually collecting and burning all these trees. And at a single moment, it all came crashing down on this village. It's so hard to describe in words when you're here, of just the devastation from Mother Nature. Oh, look at it erupting right now. Well, on that note, smoke's a-going, I'm going.
So we sat there for about 10 minutes and I was like, let's go. I gotta get out of here. This is too much. And yeah, we hopped in the van and started back heading to Antigua. When we arrived in Antigua, our tour guide was explaining to us that half of the old capital is below us. Over the years, and the volcanoes erupting and taking out pieces of this community, they've actually built the village on top of the old village.
So when we drove through that town, you were explaining the story to me, and we were sitting there trying to figure it out, and then you hit us with the fun fact. You were saying, do you notice all the new built? And I said, yes. And you go, they actually built a new town on top of that village.
Oh, that village. So after, when that city was destroyed by the mudslide, they called that big volcano Agua Volcano.
Agua Volcano. It's so cool that you've adapted over the centuries with all the devastation that Mother Nature has created in this area and have adapted. I mean, who would have thought this whole town would be made out of lava stone?
It was totally like stepping back in time. I mean, it was like 17th century. Churches everywhere.
He told me earlier when this town was first established, they built 33 Catholic churches, and they're still here intact. Over 3 centuries, they're still here intact. It's crazy to think that they didn't have like rebar back then. So how they would co-adapt with that, with all the earthquakes they were encountering, is they made the walls thicker.
Another part of the tour was visiting Antigua's local market. Once again, also shocking. Like, what is going on? You've got people yelling at us, people chainsawing branches over your head.
You guys pet chicken?
Yeah. We'll show you that beautiful we built.
Okay.
It's 2 parts. That's a really old chicken.
The fruit is so fresh that as you're walking, you're looking up at these giant power line systems, and there is just honeycombs from honeybees all over them.
You know the fruit must be really good here if there's a giant bee nest right above your head.
Right.
And you see things flying off the fruits and the vegetables, and you get closer, it's actually honeybees. It's not flies at all. I haven't seen a fly. And it's the bees taking the nectar from this fruit because it's so fresh.
So fresh.
So awesome. These locals are actually growing all this stuff right on the edge of the volcano, and then they get on these things called chicken buses. It's a giant school bus system, and they load up all their product and bring it here to the local market to sell it. To get from Pacific Fins Lodge to the center of this city takes about 2 hours. Now, what's crazy about this bus system is it's not ran by the government. It's completely private. The busing system here is completely private, but what they do is they bring their dogs, their goats, their chickens with them on these buses from the villages. It's got chainsaws dangling and... Un momento? Sí. How it's been explained to me is that these buses can hold up to 70 people and then another 30 on top.
One of the things that our tour guide kept saying, I gotta show you this McDonald's, I gotta show you this McDonald's. And we're like, okay, take us to the McDonald's. And as he took us there, it was the most beautiful view in the back of a McDonald's. I was like, what are we doing? This is crazy.
What did I just see? That was the most beautiful view that I've seen in a long time in the back of a McDonald's.
After exploring the old capital of Antigua, we headed off for our last adventure to climb an active volcano named Pacaya. Pacaya volcano stands over 1,800 feet. That would be an equivalent of 6 Statue of Liberty stood on top of one another, and we were gonna climb it.
Right now we are in front of an active volcano called the Pacaya. We are gonna be taking horses to carry our gear, and we are going to climb this mountain that they say takes up to 3 hours. Absolutely stoked for this part. So how far from here to there?
It's 3 kilometers.
3 kilometers, so a mile?
Miles maybe 1.5.
1.5?
Yes.
Only 1.5 miles to go. My dad, being the man that he is, didn't want a horse.
he saw climbing this volcano as something that he wanted to conquer that day, just as a normal workout.
I'm walking with you.
I look.
Yeah, I'm walking.
I climbed for about 10 minutes and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna ride a horse. So I hopped on a horse like all the film crew was already on. We started tracking up this volcano.